I can still remember the moment I got my first muscle up. It was like it was yesterday. You know, just floating through the air, weightless, both elbows turning over, strong turnover, you know? And then as I press out, the whole class just erupting, you know, in celebration. It really was one of the greatest moments of my life. I reckon it was probably up there with the birth of my child, maybe even my wedding day.
What did you say?
Oh, welding day. I was just telling them how at high school I really enjoyed welding day. Yeah. What is up, you sexy beasts? The muscle up. It really is the most sought after achievement or movement to master in the CrossFit gym. And it's a pretty special moment when it happens. In today's video, I'm going to cover what I think are the 5 steps needed to get your very first ring muscle up.
Gary Kepler. Hey, for Kristen Cleaver. Annie from Iceland got her first ever muscle up.
I honestly believe that anyone can get a muscle up if they commit to the process that's necessary to get there. So let's look at the 5 steps that will get you there.
Yes.
Step number 1 is building strength. If you look at the muscle up in its simplest form, it consists of 2 movements really, a pull-up and a dip. So we have to strengthen those 2 movements in isolation. And I think regardless of where you're at on the muscle up scale, it's valuable to continue to strengthen your pull-ups and your dips. So there are many exercises you can use to strengthen these 2 things. I'm going to show you a few right now. First up, we have the ring row. This is an entry-level pulling movement that anyone can do really, and it's very easy to scale this by just walking your feet forwards or backwards. The further you walk them forwards, the harder they'll become. The more you walk them backwards, the easier they'll become. So you can literally just scale these on the spot. Super achievable, super accessible, the ring row. Next up is banded pull-ups. Now I don't currently have any bands, but I'll just use my crossover symmetry here to give you the idea. And lastly, my favorite and the movement that I believe is the most effective in building strength is the negative. So you're gonna start with your chin already above the bar, so you might need to stand on a box or the J-cup, and you're gonna lower yourself down. You're gonna try and lower yourself down for 5 seconds. Let's say 3 to 5 seconds. There won't be a pull-up here. You'll literally just focus on the lowering down. It's called the eccentric motion. You'll step back up, get your chin above the bar, and repeat. For the dip, we can start with some basic push-ups. You can drop to your knees, but I would prefer you stay on your toes and do negatives. You can do some banded dips, and you can also do some negatives on the rings. When I prescribe the pull-up and dip strength work, I tell people to do 10 reps and do 5 sets. So all up for the day, that'll be 50 reps of that particular movement, and you just rest as needed between the 2 sets. I personally like to separate the pull-up strength work from the dip work. So let's say you do your pull-up strength work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then you do your dip strength work on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. That way you don't have that kind of pre-fatigue trying to do both movements on the same day. Step number 2, develop the false grip. I have always been a massive fan of landing your very first ring muscle up using the false grip and a small kip. One of the biggest challenges people have with the ring muscle up is moving their hand from under the ring, the pulling grip, to getting on top of the ring, ready to press out or to dip. Oftentimes what will happen is people will pull, they'll go for the sit over, and they'll end up with their hand to the side of the ring, not quite on top. They'll get caught there and have no strength to actually press out. What the false grip does, it already puts you in a great pressing position, a great dip position. So if you're willing to commit to learning how to pull with a false grip, it's going to make that turnover and dip a whole lot easier. Now, it might not seem like a lot of range. Going from the middle of the hand to under the wrist, it seems pretty insignificant, but I can tell you it makes a massive difference when it comes to turning over into that dip position. Just that little bit extra range is going to make it feel a lot more compact, and I can guarantee you if you commit to doing your first muscle up with the false grip, you'll feel that. You'll feel that fast turnaround, that compact catch, rather than having to move your hand a long way around the ring to get on top. So to strengthen your false grip, you can simply do the ring rows that we spoke about in step number 1. You can do those ring rows with the false grip. You could also just spend some time hanging on the rings with the false grip. And lastly, if you have the strength, you can do some ring pull-ups with that false grip. You can even hang on the pull-up bar with a false grip as well. I used to do these, just hook that wrist over the bar and then hang there, or try and even do some pull-ups with that false grip on the pull-up bar. Step number 3, master the kip. We're going to start on the ground with some hollow rocks and some arch rocks. And once we've done these, we're then going to move on to the rings and apply those two shapes, the hollow and the arch, by doing a kip on the rings. We're going to squeeze the whole body tight, our core, our glutes. We're going to squeeze our heels together, point the toes, and then we're simply going to change from shape to shape, from the arch to the hollow in a nice dynamic fashion. Now, the great thing about hollow rocks, arch rocks, and kipping on the rings is that it's a great warm-up for most movements. So I actually try and incorporate this as part of my warm-up every single day. You do 15 hollow rocks, 15 arch rocks, and then 5 to 10 kips on the rings. That's one set. I repeat that 3 times as part of the warm-up every single day. Step number 4, get comfortable with the catch. So by this stage, you're probably quite comfortable doing pull-ups and dips, but it's transitioning from one to the next that's the tricky bit and that you haven't been exposed to yet. That is called the turnover or the catch. It can be the scary part because you're throwing yourself through the rings and hoping that it will stick. So these 3 exercises I'm about to give you are our final progressions before we attempt our first muscle up, and we're going to do these with the false grip. The first one is a jumping muscle up. Now to start with, you won't actually dip out of it, you'll just practice catching and then coming back out of it. So you just put the rings to a height where you can jump and catch safely and comfortably, and you repeat that just to get used to throwing yourself through and catching in that nice deep dip position. Once you're ready, you can then go ahead and add the dip or the press out to that movement. The second one is a banded ring muscle up. I love this one because you're not jumping, you actually feel like you're in the air. We're going to use a band to basically keep us elevated just by attaching that band to one ring, putting it under our butts, and then grabbing onto it on the other side. Make sure that you pull enough of the band across the other side so it doesn't slip out. So with this movement, we're going to eliminate all that momentum we had from the jumping ring muscle up. And all we're going to do here is use a little bounce to get some momentum, and obviously you can reduce that bounce as you get stronger in that turnover. And then finally, we're going to progress to a assisted ring muscle up with a partner or a coach ideally. You're going to have someone stand next to you and actually just assist you through that turnover, that scary part where you're on your own and you're not sure what's going to happen. Just having someone there with one hand under the hamstring, one hand under your lower back, just feels safer to have someone there. So those are our 3 progressive exercises to get comfortable in the catch. We have the jumping ring muscle up, the banded ring muscle up, and the assisted muscle up. Step number 5, attempt your first muscle up. Again, I'm a massive fan of attempting your first muscle up using the false grip. When you use your false grip, you don't need as much of a kip, so that's less momentum, and less momentum means less risk of injury. It's a more controlled movement, so please take my word for it and try and attempt your first one with the false grip. I always got my members to do 2 kips. The first kip was a practice kip, and then the muscle up attempt happened on the second kip. Now, we're not competing in a CrossFit competition here, so don't worry if you can't extend your elbows. It is really hard to extend the elbows with the false grip. So if you have to keep the elbows slightly bent, that is completely fine for now. We can work on getting that full extension over time. Now, let's say you land your very first muscle up. I would recommend you just come down and celebrate that one muscle up. But let's say you do want to try and string multiple reps together. Let's say you want to get 2 in a row. You've got 2 options here. Once you've got that full extension on top of the rings, you can come back down to a dip position and then push back into a nice big hollow before you swing into your arch again. Or if you feel comfortable and you think you're strong enough in the shoulders, you can, from full extension on the rings, you can push back from the top into your hollow position. Obviously, there's going to be more momentum and I guess more force through the shoulder joints. So I always recommend to start with that you come back down to a dip position and then push back into your hollow. One advantage of this is you'll gain some more strength. Because you're doing an eccentric loading on the dip, you'll actually improve your strength by doing this, and also taking away the momentum is going to reduce the risk of injury. So there you have it, guys. Those are my 5 steps that I believe, if you commit to them, will get you your very first ring muscle up. And I think even if you have, say, 5 to 10 muscle ups already, by developing your pulling strength, your dip strength, and developing a stronger kipping motion, it's going to take you to that next level of 10 to 15 or even beyond. I personally have a top unbroken set of 12 ring muscle ups, and I really want to try and get it to 15. So I'm going to take these tips on board myself, start working on my strength and my stamina when it comes to the pull up and the dip, and try and achieve that. So let me know down in the comments, do you have a muscle up? Do you want a muscle up? And let me know if you're going to commit to doing these 5 steps, and I can't wait to see the videos or get the messages of you guys achieving your very first muscle ups. Guys, that's it. Stay sexy, keep roaring love, and I'll see you real soon. Mwah.